When you determine that a company has an open job, it's important to act with a real sense of urgency. Once a company decides to run an ad and to either fill an open position or hire for a brand new position, they want to do this as quickly as possible. And there's only two possibilities that take place in the hiring process. There's already an open position. They're filling a position where somebody was fired or they quit, or they've decided that they need an additional person to fill a net new position. The second scenario is that you have convinced the company they have a need and you have a solution, or you are the solution. If you can do this, you have no competition for that job, and you've demonstrated the 3 A's, that attitude, aptitude, and appetite, and you have demonstrated that you can solve a problem that exists within their company. That second scenario requires that you're very bold and that you've researched the company and you would be an asset to their organization. This also means that if you can do this, you have nobody else competing for that open position, since you're getting the hiring manager to think about what it would mean to bring in a very valuable person, you, who can add to the company's DNA. In this scenario too, though, you do have to work with a sense of urgency. When there's an existing need, there are 3 possible scenarios that took place. An employee was fired, an employee quit, or a new position was created. And for the purpose of describing the hiring process, let's take a look at what happens when an employee is fired or has quit. The manager creates a hiring profile and writes a help wanted ad to replace the employee who is leaving. Usually they turn to the direct supervisor for final approval or consensus. In larger companies, the human resource department will become involved. In small companies, it might be the owner of the company. Once the profile and ad is written and approved, the advertisement is placed, or placement companies or headhunters are enlisted. Resumes come in and the screening and selection process begins. Phone interviews help with the selection process and to set up the first round interviews. After this, the second round of interviews help further the selection process. Between the second and third round of the final interviews, kind of that internal selling begins. The department manager, the hiring manager, and others who will be working with a possible new hire begin talking about and selling each other on the different candidates. If you're not sure what this means, watch judges on shows like American Idol. Each person has their own idea of what's best and what's needed. From there, the third or final interview takes place. The managers meet, discuss options, and the single candidate selected. Then there's the job offer, the acceptance of the job offer, and the new hire joins the company, and then there's that probationary period. This sounds like a mighty long time, but all of this can happen in 1 to 2 weeks. When you apply for a position, getting in and following up needs to be done with a sense of urgency. The example that we're using is a 3-interview process, but sometimes there's only 1 or 2. There are employers who will schedule a series of interviews, and sometimes, not often, but sometimes they'll hire the right one on the spot. And these situations make the length of time even less. Because of the high number of people applying for the same job, it's easier for a hiring manager to be overwhelmed. The typical ad can yield 200, 500, even 1,000 or more resumes depending on the type of job and what city you're in. 1,000 resumes gives the hiring manager a lot of choices, but that is too much of a good thing. For the hiring manager, it's frustrating and daunting to have this many candidates. So what they want to do is they want to get somebody hired and trained in a minimum amount of time, all the while finding the right person for the company. Every day that the position remains unfilled, the company is losing productivity, not only from the open position, but from the involved people not doing their jobs and the other employees who are filling in for that open position. Once the resumes start pouring in, they begin to sort. In my web ads, I tell people to enclose their resume in the body of the email. I also mention that I will not open any attachments, and I do this for 2 reasons. To see who is computer savvy enough to do this and still have their resume look good, and to see who can follow directions. A lot of hiring managers do the same thing. Creating simple rules will completely take a candidate out of the running. No matter how good your job history, if you can't follow directions, your resume is not going to get read. This removes approximately 30% of the resumes. Poorly formatted resumes that are hard to read remove another 10 to 15%. Then there's proximity. Many hiring managers delete candidates who are not in the general area since they want to make sure that they can get to the office on time every day. This removes maybe another half or more of the resumes. Usually this stack becomes the B list in case they need to expand their search. Next is relevance, clarity, and that wow factor. Is the resume experience and aptitude appropriate for the job posted? Does the candidate make clear, concise statements about their abilities and background? Finally, does the candidate demonstrate aptitude, attitude, and appetite? And how do they fit into their value proposition? Foolish cut and paste mistakes will keep the applicant from being called. Hiring managers don't want to think that you're applying for every position in the area. It's important to make the recipient of your resume feel special and unique. It also makes them feel like you've taken the extra time to communicate with them. Now, I know some of you may be thinking that this is harsh, and it may be, and some of it leans towards unfair hiring practices, but it's done every day, everywhere. Businesses are looking for the best of the best of the best to add to their company's success and strengths. Businesses want valuable employees who are in the top 1 to 5% of their industry. After all of the sorting and selecting, the resumes are now a manageable number. The resumes are now scrutinized so there can be a manageable number of first-round candidates who will be interviewed by phone or in person. Remember the Pareto principle, that 80-20 rule? The top 20% of the candidates will be more qualified than all of the others who apply. Out of 1,000 resumes, it's possible they've narrowed it down to 200. Out of 500 resumes, that's 100. Out of 250, that's 50. Then they review that stack and narrow it down to maybe 40. And once again to an initial group of 8 to 10. So my question to you, with your resume today, where would you fit in that stack? At this point in time, the interview is fully committed to interviewing as many possible people as they must in order to find somebody who meets or exceeds the expectations of the company. Somebody who will add to the corporate DNA and somebody who's a good fit. They start with the first round candidates knowing that they may need to go back to the stack. When I look at resumes, the first thing I look at are verbs. Those action words that tell me if somebody is results oriented. I also look for somebody who demonstrates the 3 A's and whether they understand that their action and abilities will lead to profitability in the form of additional sales or better processes or cost savings. The real value proposition is how you take your attitude, aptitude, and appetite and help the reader draw a conclusion that you'll help their company to improve in some way and to increase profits, again, processes or cost savings. There also needs to be a clearly stated objective, an easy to read, easy to understand resume with a pattern of success. Your attitude, aptitude, and appetite must fit into their value proposition. The value proposition is always the same, although it might be stated differently from company to company, but it always comes down to the same thing. They want a profitable business, giving them enough money to give their shareholders a good salary, pay their suppliers and employees, and have money left over to grow their business. The things that will add to the success of any department or company are increased revenue or throughput, improved customer relations, additional revenue, employees who are salespeople who exceeded quota, somebody who reduced costs, somebody who has saved the company money, somebody who works 2, 3, 4 times faster than employees in the same position. This is very simple. Give them a reason to hire you. Let them know if you're hired, you're going to add to their profitability. If you don't really honestly care about helping them, why should they care about hiring you?